Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Reaching you from Jacksonville, Florida. Lovely afternoon here, and I appreciate everybody jumping on to learn more about this important topic with your events. So, my name is Josh LeMaster. I'm one of the founders and the Chief Financial Officer of Perfect Golf Event. As we've over the past 8 years worked with thousands of events around the U.S. A very common thing that we get asked about is, is how can I protect my event from rain? So it's obviously there's some out of pocket expenses and other concerns on fundraising levels. So we've been looking at this topic for a long time, and we got to know Vortex, and I'm going to introduce here in a moment Eric with Vortex, who will be taking you through a little bit of information. So Vortex happens to have an office here in Jacksonville as well. We got to know them actually through the golf world on a national basis, but they did have an office here, and that led to a bit of a partnership. So I'm gonna let Eric introduce himself and take you through a few things, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you're familiar with the GoToWebinar settings, you should see on your screen the ability to chat, to ask questions, to raise your hand. So I'll be monitoring that while Eric's talking, and then we'll save room at the end here for your questions. So I'll keep an eye out, and feel free to use that chat. And with that said, we'll try and get this all wrapped up by 2:30 on the nose. So with all that, Eric, I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Eric Anderson. I'm the National Director of Sales for the golf division of our company. And I'm going to be walking you through our Vortex Weather Insurance product and how it can help you protect your revenue and costs of your golf event. We're partners, proud partners of Josh and Perfect Golf Event for several months now, and we really look forward to meeting all of you and helping you understand our product and the many ways that we can put policies in place where it helps you protect either for the full amount or partial amount of your charity, your day of golf, your evening afterwards. There's several ways that we can help you understand our product and place it. Let's see, Josh, I'm trying to hit the next button here, and it's not going here. Let's see, let's try that. Did that work? There we go. Okay. So basically our product, it can be used for tournaments, full seasonal coverage, fundraisers, pro-ams, corporate outings, vacations, and I'll walk through that as we get into it. So Guaranteed Weather is our parent company and or one of our companies, and Mitsui Sumitomo is who writes our insurance paper, and they're rated A+. The weather insurance side for golf has been around for some time, but we really started going to market around 2019 as we found out that there's a need in the golf space, in the charity space, because in the past it was priced too high, but now we have it built where it's priced and it's affordable. And we can show you the different ways where we can maximize a policy, but basically conform it and craft it to your tournament for budget. We've been around this product has been around since 2008 in the fair and festival space. So amphitheaters, racetracks, jumpy castles, weddings, lacrosse tournaments, etc. Conceptually, it's the same thing. You're basically buying hourly rain insurance to protect against loss. That's me. I've been around the golf space for a long time. I played golf professionally. I worked at Augusta National when I used to tour around the country. I went to Wall Street after that, and I started brokering and trading it when they started to index it, and I've been doing it ever since. And I was asked to run this division in 2019. So in a roundabout way, we think there's around 350,000 charity events, and that continues to grow. The average event raises around 5,000, give or take, after expenses. Many larger events raise $250,000 and higher, depending on how big the event or the two events could be over a couple days. Around the United States annually, charity events generate over $4 billion. Amazing. And the PGA Tour still continues to amaze. They raised $200 million in 2019. That number is obviously much higher and continues to grow. So if you want to think about rain insurance versus property and casualty and kind of get your head around the probability of it raining versus, say, a fender bender or something happening at your house. If you look at this stat, there's a chance of a potential insurance claim on a single day over a 20-year period. Pretty low, hopefully, right? Hopefully. Well, if you go to this diagram, if you look at that between June and August, okay, on any single day, that's the probability of it raining a quarter of an inch. A quarter of an inch, you could probably play your golf tournament in it. It would be really messy, but if you start to conceptually think about your event and how your audience, might take to, sometimes there's people that will not leave and they'll play through anything, and sometimes people just want to come and play a little bit. They play once a year and they'd rather donate and go inside and go to the raffle. So knowing your audience, obviously, as you do, is very important. So the applications of the revenue to the tournaments, the pro-ams, member guests, food and beverage, merch, alcohol, those kinds of things on the tournaments. We could place it for tournaments and demo days, weddings that I mentioned, holiday events. So a July 4th charity event, firecracker at your club. We can put policies in place that make sense, and we can do 2 policies in a day, several policies over a weekend. So rain insurance is parametric. That means it's triggered simply if recorded rainfall meets or exceeds the threshold listed in the policy during the coverage period. Okay, this is not indemnity insurance. It's very different. Proof of loss or event cancellation is not necessary for the policy to trigger and to pay a claim. Very important to know. So you can actually trigger the policy and continue to play your golf event. So if you're running your event, you're planning on raising $25,000. Everybody, the golf pro or the GM says, hey, cart path only because it's really wet out there. It triggers. You get to have your event. You get to double dip, so they say. You get paid and you get to have your event. So I help people understand, historical data, how much rain you've gotten in the past, or where you think it would be smart to buy a certain inch threshold where people might not stick around, or they would stick around and play through it, and you can get paid. So if it triggers. So, and again, this isn't indemnity insurance. If it triggers, usually the payment comes in 2 weeks or less. It's very simple. If it hits the number, we'll show you how the data is collected, and people love that. We had a policy payout in Ocala, Florida. He was paid out in less than, I think, 10 days, and he turned around and he bought weather insurance for the rain date. So it's something to think about, even if you have a rain date, maybe buying partial insurance, because sometimes when you have rain dates, events aren't as well attended, especially if people have to travel. They're not going to travel twice. So this is how the rain insurance works. This is the grid. We use stage 4 claim determination system, okay, that provides instant hourly quotes. The NOAA keeps the data and grids via radar that are 2.5 miles by 2.5 miles. So we find out where your address is. We have the grid come down. We look at historical data within that grid where your tournament is, and then that's how we come up with a statistical analysis and price up the different optionality for you to choose from. Usually, you know, rain thresholds trigger at around 0.20 inches. We go as low as 2.0. Sometimes for the fair and festivals, we go even lower to say 1/10 of an inch, which isn't a lot. But after this call, and hopefully I get to meet all of you and price up your event to show you the different options that we can provide and the premiums associated with it, I'll walk you through and make sure that you understand how it works and how the prices change as, you know, the thresholds change as well. The different kind of policy options that we offer are pretty simple. Shotgun coverage, usually your tournament is 5 or hopefully not 6 hours. You'd like to do it in 5 hours. So usually I price up 5 hours, but we can do more. And then I'll show you a 1/5 of an inch, a 1/3 of an inch, and a 1/2 of an inch, okay? The extended hours are sometimes longer. Say your event is 6 or 7 hours or 8 hours where people come, you have a little breakfast going on, people are messing around on the putting green or you're doing something on the range. So we can add hours, we can subtract hours. Sometimes we do double shotguns. I just did a double shotgun policy for a charity event where they raised more in the afternoon than they did in the morning round. So we can play with it, and I'll show you that as well. So the ladder coverage is different, where tiered or ladder coverage means if it rains 1/5 of an inch, you're paid 10% of the total amount you want to cover. So just say it was 50,000 that your day is going to hopefully raise. You get paid $5,000 if it rains through 0.20 but doesn't touch 0.33. If it rains through 0.33, you get another 30%, so 15,000. So 5,000 plus 15,000, hence the term ladder or tier. So the more that it rains, the more you're paid out. And then that premium I'll show you that when I price up your event after our call. There's a lot of events that buy our ladder coverage because they know their audience. The more rain that's coming, usually people decide to leave. They don't stay and spend money. If there's, you know, different kinds of things afterwards, silent auctions, those kinds of things. So you get paid out the more rain that is accumulated. The hours of coverage can vary. Sometimes we'll do 2 hours. Sometimes we'll do 6 hours. If the first ball's in the air for your charity event, say at 8 a.m., we could do something from 8 until 1, or as the NFL alumni, they buy our weather insurance for all of their events. And I remember pricing it up. They said, what happens if it rains before 8 o'clock? I said, you're not covered. So there's events that buy, you know, a couple hours before. So that adds to the cost. But if it does, you know, if it tells people that it's raining, okay, and they're not going to show up, then you're going to lose potentially them spending money at your event. Sometimes charities look at buying, you know, hours when we're sleeping, say 5 or 6 hours, say 2 in the morning till 7, because if the course is waterlogged and unplayable, then it's sunny during the time of playing. They have to wait until the afternoon. People need to leave because they're on a schedule. Sometimes people look at buying partial coverage when you're sleeping before the event. And then they buy a second policy for the actual tournament itself. Just something to think about, and that we're happy to provide. I did a 6-day Masters hedge in Augusta where a course would have tee times every morning at 8 o'clock. And he said, Eric, what happens if it rains before the first ball's in the air? And I said, you're not covered. He said, because the course could get waterlogged on the backside. So he ended up buying 5 hours on top of his 5-hour shotgun round in the morning. And his premium, he got 100% more coverage, where the premium only went up 50%. Again, it's just something to think about as you work through your tournament and potentially protecting it. Obviously, the rain thresholds, we can provide any inches. If you said you wanted 0.4, if you said you wanted 1/4 of an inch, we can price that. That's very easy to do. The limits are adjustable. Happy to do that. We can customize the parameters and make it, exactly how you'd like it for your tournament. The hourly data that we basically index everything off of is how we provide settlement. It's customizable. I'll show you historical data of your tournament. And basically, just reading through this, it's eliminating hours in a day when revenue figures are not sensitive. What does that mean? To help reduce the cost. So just say you're on a certain budget, and you only want to spend $500 or $1,000 or whatever the number is. If you take an hour off the back end, that'll obviously decrease the price, because if it starts to rain in your tournament around the 14th, 15th hole, 16th, everyone's going to want to go inside and have cocktails and hopefully spend money for your charity. So we can play around with that, and I'll show you how that works when I talk to you after the webinar. So this is a grid, what it looks like that we produce. So this was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We show you, a certain inch threshold. I think this one was half an inch. So on the right, you can see in 2019, there were 4 days where, they had rain in July. So these are the kind of historical data points that I'll show you. If you'd like to see, say, a 10-year, historical. I just priced up a Champions Tour yesterday that got rain this year. And so we walked through the historical data, and they loved seeing it because they could see the days, the times, if it rains overnight, if it rains during the playing time. So this is what we'll show you. So I kind of walked through this before, but rain insurance is priced using historical probabilities, geographic location. Florida in the summer is different than Florida in the winter. It rains here almost every single day at some point. So it's, the seasonality, time of day. It rains less in the morning than it does in the afternoon because of the humidity. In Texas in the winter, it's going to rain, less in the winter than it does in the summer. In the Northeast in the spring, and late in the afternoons up there when the humidity starts, it rains more. So a policy in the afternoon is probably going to be more expensive than it is in the morning time. But again, I can show you all that. In Seattle, it's going to rain more than, say, the desert down in Arizona. And that's why the cost is going to be cheaper or more expensive if you're in the Northwest. So here's pricing. On $10,000 in February down in Palm Beach Gardens, a 5-hour shotgun as an example, what a 1/5 of an inch would cost. On the right, the rate online basically is 4.2%. So the premium was $420. The higher the level of threshold, the cheaper the premium is, because probability of it raining more is lower. Obviously, that we can understand that. And then if you go to a 1/2 an inch to cover $10,000, $262 on a 5-hour shotgun. So if you kind of times that by 2 or 5, you can play around with the premium and see what you look at. Usually the rate online on the right is between 2 and 5% of the total limit. So I did a policy in Purchase, New York for a tournament raising money for cancer, 1/2 an inch or 1/3 of an inch for 5 hours on a $100,000 policy was $4,900. So 4.9%. Here's this is the ladder or tiered approach that I was explaining, where, again, and here's a TPC Sawgrass right around the corner. From 10 to 3, on a 1/5 of an inch, if it triggered, you'd get paid 10%, or 10%. And then 0.33 would be another 15%, which is 45,000. I'm sorry, 30%. And then the final 60% will be 90,000 at a 1/2 an inch. And if it rains through the first threshold and doesn't touch the next one, that's what you're paid. If it rains through the thresholds, you add the different limits. So it'd be 15 plus 45 if it rained through 0.33, going to $60,000. Here's the customer I was talking about in Ocala. They bought a policy for less than $700. It triggered. The payout was $25,000, and he turned around and he bought weather insurance for his rain date in January. They were paid. Let's see, the check arrived was deposited within 5 days of the tournament. So the data came in from the NOAA. We recognized it. We got them a check quickly, and it was pretty easy. These are some of our sections and our partnerships. Obviously, Perfect Golf Event, but we partnered with PGA of America, South Florida, North Florida, the Carolinas, the Met section, New Jersey, and they all buy our weather insurance for their PGA Reach tournaments, their professional tournaments. PGA Magazine, they work with us, we're partners of them, and they buy our weather insurance for all of the NFL alumni charity events. We've done multiple events, different locations around the country. It's a big revenue protector for them, as the NFL alumni raise a lot of money. Recently, we just partnered with Buffalo Group. They are taking our product to market around the country through marketing, and they've got a lot of really cool ideas. So you're going to be seeing our name a lot more. We're very excited about that. And here's some testimonials. And as I go through this, Josh, obviously, we're very excited to be working with you, and I'd love to answer some questions from the group.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Let me. We do have a few questions here. I'm gonna try and combine a few, and I may paraphrase. I hope I don't butcher them. And also another housekeeping item: we will send out this presentation to everybody that registered for the webinar, so you'll get the hard copy of this. So the first one. So it basically says, what do we provide to prove our loss?
Okay. Yep. So great question. So we provide you with the data in that grid, that hourly grid that comes from the NOAA. So they keep the data hourly, record it, and then they refine the data, which is indexed, and the hourly data is kept everywhere around the country, every day, all day long in those grids. The entire United States is gridded. So as those days and those hours come in, the NOAA posts that online, and that's what we use to index settlement off of. So we will provide you that hourly data in your location.
Eric, I think they may have been shooting more from the other angle of, do you have to send like your invoice with the golf course, or do what do you do to prove your loss? Like all the expenses and the claim.
Oh, you mean the charity?
Yes.
Well, see, this is where rain insurance is different. So your charity, okay, when you buy, a third of an inch for $50,000. Okay, what you lose on your end just depends on whether or not people are coming, whether they're spending, or they don't come because of the bad weather. So what we try to do is help you think about those kinds of things, what you think the projected loss would be, and the potential, revenue you're looking to gain. And then we try to figure out what the best threshold within your budget, okay? So you don't have to tell us what you've lost for your event. All we do is we provide you with the data and if it triggered or not, which hopefully if you had bad weather and it triggered, we're giving you the money, and then you can use the money for your charity or how you'd like to spend it.
Good.
I hope that answered the question. Yeah.
I think so. I think just even saying it straight out, I think what you're saying is if we have a $50,000 policy in place, it's going to pay out $50,000 if it gets the right amount of rain, and you really don't need any paperwork to show what those expenses were.
That's right. You don't, the customer, you, the charity golf event planner, you don't provide us anything. We show you the hourly data, and if it triggered, you're getting the 50,000 in less than 2 weeks.
All right, I got another one here. It's kind of on a similar vein. Basically, does the event have to get canceled to get paid? I guess, you know, what exactly is the trigger?
Yeah. Yep. This is that's a great question. I'm asked that question over 5 times a day. The answer is no. Okay. If the event is canceled because of the rain, the rain has to trigger for you to get paid. So whether you have the event or it gets canceled and the policy's in place, that doesn't change us and having your rain insurance in place. I actually had an event in Orlando that canceled a golf glow tournament, and because of bad weather, they actually ended up canceling it, and nobody came. He said, "Nobody came, Eric. Does that affect the insurance policy?" I said, "No." I said, "If nobody's there, they canceled it in entirety, right? But they still had it in place. So if it triggered, they would have gotten paid." So basically, it doesn't have to be canceled. If it rains, and again, if you continue to play your event through the rain and it triggers, you get to have your event. Everybody will be wet, but you're going to get a check for 50,000.
Great. I've got 2 similar questions. They both deal with timing. One is asking how far in advance do we need to do this, and the other is asking how long does the process take afterwards if something is triggered.
Yep. So the first question, we have to bind coverage 15 days prior to the event. So typically in the process, if you buy our weather insurance, it's a very easy process. We send you an insurance application. Usually most people pay by PayPal on a credit card. And then once that comes in, it's bound, and we send you the formal weather insurance policy. If I sat down with you and Josh, we could do a policy together in probably less than 5 minutes, all 3 steps. Usually people take a little bit longer than that, but so the answer is 15 days. You can buy it today for an event in September and the data won't change. It has nothing to do with forecast. It has to do with historical data. So whether it's now or it's 15 days prior, that's the drop dead date. The second question was afterwards, right? It's pretty simple. If it does trigger and you are paid, we can either send you a check in the mail or we can wire you, through ACH, whatever's easiest. So as soon as it's done and the data comes in, like that example with Gary Crawford that was just on the webinar here, he got it in just a few days, and here it is. He got it in just a few days, and he deposited it, and it was pretty simple.
All right. I guess just while we're wrapping up here, if anybody has any last questions, I think everybody's gotten their answers. So once again, we really appreciate everybody taking the time on this short holiday week, and we'll get this presentation out to you. Also on the webinars page on perfectgolfevent.com, you can always watch the recording if you want to share it with others in your group or on your committee. And you will have Eric's information on the presentation, and of course you can reach me at josh@perfectgolfevent.com. So thanks all. Appreciate you taking the time. Yeah,
thank you very much, Josh, and I look forward to meeting everybody and helping everyone price up their events. Please reach out, and I will speak with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.